Hello everyone. I was about to say good morning. I've been in this room since about 7:30. I just realised it's afternoon. Hey, so welcome. Welcome to the Auckland Wooden Boat Festival Talks and Tours edition. So we've had two wonderful talks in here this morning talking about Pacific navigation, Pacific knowledge and being used into STEM and things. And just incredible connections and conversation. So at the end of this panel, there will be an opportunity for a Q&A. So just to not surprise you with that one, so you can get ready with your questions. So welcome to the Stories of Women at Sea. So it's a panel discussion. And I'll just introduce my fellow speakers. I'm Michelle Khan, Co-Festival Director for the Auckland Wooden Boat Festival. As well as a member of the Tino Rawa Trust, a special supporter for the New Zealand Sailing Trust as well, Classic Yacht Association sailor. So I'd just also like to introduce you to, actually I'll just quickly say, so I've been involved in sailing off and on for the past 27 years. I can't believe that. With the last 13 as my main focus. It wasn't planned that way, it just happened. Today I'll share a few stories about my time on the water from my experiences of those various organisations I just spoke about. And I'll talk about some of the offshore experience that I've had. So I'd also just like to introduce Kat, originally from Chile. She made New Zealand her home in 2017, and in April 2022, thanks to a bit of serendipity and the encouragement of the amazing women around her, she was invited to sail on Rawene. So Rawene is a 1908 gaff rig classic yacht. So without completing any formal sail training, she jumped straight onto the tools, and she learnt by doing and embracing every task thrown her way. This hands-on experience opened the door to the world of sailing, introduced her to racing, classic yachts, and the unique, sometimes quirky sailing lingo. Many of you sailors in the room? Who gets, yeah. So you're absolutely familiar with that quirky lingo. Since then, she's been deeply involved in the sailing community, fully embracing every challenge and adventure that the sport has to offer. We've got Natia as well, and I'm going to get her to introduce herself because she actually committed to this just a couple of days ago, and I'm very grateful to have her here. So, but would you like to just do your own introduction before we get on? Thank you.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Natia tōku ingoa, no hāmo oku tipuna. My name's Natia Taka. I'm a New Zealand-born Samoan, and I started traditional voyaging on a wakahaurua just outside here in 2017 with Sunny. And I then went on to do my master's. It's called Tātou o Tangata Whalau, Pacific Development through Learning Traditional Voyaging on the Wakahaurua, Honui. And today I'll be talking about a voyage we did last year on Henemoana Ua, Henemoana 2, from Tauranga to Tonga with an all-female, all-Indigenous crew on a double-hulled waka.
Fantastic. Thank you. And actually also just forgot to say that Rawene is also an all-women's crew as well. They do have Tokamau, Bob, who did actually bring them all together, but I'll let Kat talk to you about that. So I just wanted to start off with, this is my now husband, Tony. So he's the chairman of the New Zealand Sailing Trust, has been since 2007, I think it is. One of the other trustees is here, William Goodfellow. So when I met them back in 2007, 2008, they invited me out to sail on Line New Zealand as part of an anniversary day sail. And I've been involved with them ever since. And I've been very, very grateful. So this is us just before the start of an Auckland to Fiji race on Steinlager 2 back in 2014 when she first arrived back. But in 2009, we did the Sydney to Hobart race on Lion New Zealand. This is the start. You can see all the other boats at the back, the concentration by everybody. And there's Tony there. There's Sarah Jane Blake. She sailed with us on that trip as well. And Alistair Moore was the skipper. Those two are now married. And yeah, so it was very exhilarating. Never knew what to expect for that. And just to have all those yachts. But also actually it was the sound of the helicopters, which I was quite surprised about. This is us out in the Sydney Heads. So you're in the harbour there, you go around a buoy, and then you shoot out to the Heads and make your way south, down to Tasmania and Hobart. So I am sitting about there. Once again, I had no idea what to expect. When I called my mother to say that I'd been invited to do the Sydney to Hobart yacht race, she asked me if I had my life insurance policy in place and all in order. And I'd imagine a lot of offshore sailors get asked that kind of question because people think, I had a group of girlfriends take me for dinner and just tell me how much they love me because they weren't really expecting to see me again. But one thing I realised though, Lion New Zealand was made to go around the world, which she had done. They called her the urban assault vehicle. And what I learned, it's about the vessel you're in and the crew you're with. And the crew I was with were amazing. There was only one night there where we had an all-hands-on-deck call early hours of the morning. I didn't know what that was. I didn't even really know what watches were before I did this race. So when you're racing, you watch our watch systems, 3 hours on, 3 hours off, 3 hours on standby. So you're getting about 90 minutes sleep, maybe 2 hours if you're really good, but you have to be very, very prepared, very, very organised to be able to get that much sleep at once. And so the all-hands-on-deck call, it was early hours of the morning. I got up late because I'd just climbed back into my bunk. I was really tired by this point. Kind of by the time I got on the deck, everyone was on the rail and it was silent. And Tony had to pull me up because I couldn't, we were heeled so far over at that point. And I just knew straight away. So no yelling. Even though there was stuff going on, there was no yelling. And I just knew by the silence that, okay. I didn't know that the sea was rough at that point and most people would be seasick or, be even afraid because I'd never been in the ocean like that before. So I didn't know that it was a storm. It was just us sailing as far as I was aware. And, and that kind of stands you in good stead in some respects. So it was just, that was a really good lesson on about, actually it's about your crew. This is us after a couple of days. Look at the hair there. That's my sleepy head on. Just, there were a few quiet moments as well. And it's always such an amazing time when you're on a voyage or on a race in this case. You get that downtime and you get to spend time with people and stuff as well. I wish I'd known more about what to look for in the ocean and the waves and the stars, but this is what the voyage is about now, the journey. This is us at the end. We made it. Lion had been invited back after winning the race 25 years previously. We didn't win the race this time, but we did make it to the end. Yeah. And that's the whole crew together. So, and we had quite a few young ones. So there's like this guy here and there's a couple of others. So they were actually, we had 4 of the children of the sailors that had sailed with Peter Blake all those years ago. So they came on board with us as well. It was a real like father-son type trip because then we did 6 weeks up the East Coast. Actually, I think, oh, look, there we go. You've always got to have a Kiwi on board. That's actually coming back from Tonga, that one. This is Tony and I just recently going to the Australian Wooden Boat Festival in Hobart. And, of course, we took the Laser Kiwi and we did a race and we flew Laser Kiwi. You have to do that. There we are. So it's not all fun. and being out on the water there's some pretty hard graft that goes on as well. So this is one of the classic boats. This is actually wahine. So this is some of the crew together, and we get in there, we get our hands dirty, and it's a great opportunity to get to know the boat a bit better as well. There's another one that's getting Natia ready before we shipped her to Hobart. So we're just doing the anti-foul out at West Auckland, and she just had a new paint job and things like that as well. So so we get in there and we do a lot of the hands-on work. We work with boat builders, of course, as well. But we do make sure that we still get our hands dirty. That's what it's, we've got to celebrate as well. So this is at the end of a race. It's, there's a lot of camaraderie out there, people taking photos of each other's boats and things as well, which I love. This is us winning some trophies. So every race, I learnt, I went to the first CYO prize giving, and Tony's name got called out, and I was like, oh, what was that for? He said, oh, remember that race that we did two-handed? And and we finished. Well, we actually won. I'm like, what? Nobody told me there were trophies. So I'm like a magpie. I like shiny things. So here's us winning. And there's some trophies there. And that's actually the trophy cabinet at the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. So that's the Classic Yacht Association's trophy cabinet. The wonderful thing about Tino Rawa Trust, which is a classic boat trust that Tony chairs, is that we have about 6 boats that actively race. So when it comes to prize giving time, there's normally a Tino Rawa boat in there. So that's when we become the team. And then, of course, there's the individual boats as well. And each of those trophies has a story about them. Each of the boats do as well. So that's part of what the Auckland Wooden Boat Festival is about, is to actually, be able to share those stories. This is what happens when you go sailing. You do discover the tiger inside. And of course, your reward for overcoming your last challenge is your next challenge. If anyone had told me all those years ago I'd still be involved in sailing, that I would love nothing more than being out in the open ocean. So Tony, William and I and a couple of friends just bought a boat back from Tonga in November, and it's just beautiful out there. I just love it. This is a project, Sunny. This here, Sunny just did a talk recently. So what we've discovered recently is that there's a lot of talk around a lot of people wanting, particularly around the traditional navigation, boat building, whakahurua, but it's also in the classic boat community as well, where we are talking about how to, is it sustainable anymore to keep the boats? Who's coming through after us? How do we actually share these stories and things? And there's a whole group in the whakahurua or traditional voyaging who are looking at building different boats. So Sunny wants to build one that's triple hulled. This is one that's up in Rarotonga. There's another one down in Wellington, Tauranga, Tairāwhiti. From all the conversations, what I'm hearing though, is everyone is in their silos. They kind of know maybe another organisation who's talking about it, but the aim is for next year, and maybe even a bit earlier, to start bringing all those groups together so we can start sharing about how we can work together. I used to work in the New Zealand marine industry as well, and so there's lots of suppliers and lots of knowledge and naval architects and things who can really benefit actually from conversations with the traditional boat builders, and both can. So that is one of the things that just gives me goosebumps at the moment, I have to say. And then of course there is next year for the Auckland Wooden Boat Festival as well, where we'll go back to, we're hoping to be on Jellicoe Wharf again. Who came to the boat festival last year? There's a few. Oh, there's another T-shirt over there as well. Yeah, so last year was our first year. We were, as I said, Jellicoe Harbour, with 100 boats on the water. We were in the Viaduct Event Centre with another 60. We did seminars here, films and things. So this year is what we're calling the festival light, so talks and tours. There's tours here for the talks. Well, there's a film screening after this called Whetū Marama Bright Star, which is about the Hector Busby story, as well as about traditional navigation in New Zealand and in the Pacific Islands as well. And then tomorrow there's a whole series of talks as well. There's a workshop in the morning, and then the Percy Boss building is open, and then tomorrow the Heritage Landing is open as well as actually all the boats outside here. You can go on to all of them today as well. I feel I haven't really conveyed the depth of sailing and things and the experience, but I will say I'm very, very grateful for Tony and William for introducing me into this world, and everyone that we get to work with as well. There we go. I'll hand over to Kat next. Oh, you've got your own mic.
Jill, that was great. Hello, everyone.
Or do you want me to clap for you?
Yeah, I
I'll
don't
clap
mind.
for you.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna talk a little bit about my sailing experience, which is not a lot, but it all started in April 2022. There was a group of girls who were trying to make more friends, and I ended up going to Rakino Island on a sailing boat, and it was a beautiful weekend, which turned into a bit of an adventure because on the way back, 8 men from Rakino had to hold the boat onto the dock so we can get on because there was 40 to 45 knots of wind. So the ferries were cancelled and we had things to do in Auckland, in the mainland, so we had to come back. We trust our skipper, a friend of ours these days, Steffi, and she brought us all safe. I was down below because it was my first time on a sailing boat ever. You learn a lot about yourself on experiences like this. I didn't know what I was doing, and I didn't know that was that bad. In fact, I had to ask my friend yesterday, what was the wind that day when we came back? Because I didn't know better, so we endured it, and I realized I had a stomach of iron because there was no seasickness from me. And we had a fish pie down below that didn't help my crew to hold. But anyways, that Rakino trip was a pivot moment for me because since then, my friends, the friends that I have now, said, you'll be very handy on a boat. So maybe 2 weekends after that, I was leaving the viaduct on Wahine. The lifting bridge lifted for us, and we left on that boat, and I was like, what is this life? So I asked the captain what my job was. That's Bob Steele, or the only male on the crew, and our skipper. And he said, you are on the main sheet. And I was like, what is the main sheet? That sounds important, and I'm not sure I can do that. But I think that was the magic of it all, that you don't need to know everything when you start. If you have an ear, if you can listen, if you can follow an instruction, you were going to be just fine. That day led to more invites to other boats, this time with winches. So I realized you don't need to have that much strength when you have a winch and you have a winch handle. But I did realize you needed to be quite fit and you need to get arm muscles and back. And so I started going to the gym a little bit more. That was, I think, the pivot point. I started sailing on more faster boats. Wahine can go only sometimes. Only sometimes because of, that's my friend holding the gym. She's actually there with a baby now, but she's gonna sail on Wahine soon. It's a heavy boat to handle. So in really strong winds, we can't take her and our crew on another boats because I was just really keen to learn more. I think the highlights of sailing, it's the connection with the ocean, the connection with the crew, learning about team effort and how important it is to listen to each other. And when we all have this one goal, it doesn't matter where we come from. It doesn't matter if we have an accent. It doesn't matter, like what we like to eat or what we think about politics. We are sailing the boat and we want to go fast because hopefully we want to win a little prize or a shiny prize. So yeah, I think the most important, the highlight is the connection, is that I have this whole new perspective of Auckland because of sailing. I don't see the city the same. I was about to leave Auckland and I discovered that there was so much sailing and that the sailing scene is not just a group of people. It became my family. It became my community. I don't know if I'm saying this right, but my hapu. I feel it's part of who I am, and I wish I had, I had learned this before, to be honest. And coming from a country with a long coast, I can't believe I wasn't involved in sailing back home. But here I am now, learning as much as I can and soaking it all in. So that's us out there. As you can see, we have, there's just 3 sails up there, but that's the main sail is the big one in the back. Then we have the top sail, and then we have, if I'm not wrong, that's the jib. Sometimes we can double up with a staysail, and sometimes we fly a beautiful kite that looks like a balloon in front of the boat as well. I'm still main sheet lady, but I would love to get more comfortable on the bow. I think it's a challenging spot, the balance and the pointy end it's a bit terrifying, but I'm gonna get there. And I think that there is also challenges to this. It's getting more people involved. I think that people doesn't understand that sailing doesn't involve owning a boat or having a lot of money or owning the most expensive boat. I actually was talking to someone today at the marina. They say, me and my brother, they are retired, they say, we found the cheapest boat we can buy, and now we go out sailing together. They have a Ross 930, beautiful boat as well. I love Ross 930 boats. And the other challenge is that sometimes some males still don't see us as sailors, just because of the fact we are females. I know I'm quite new, but I think that there is a lot of very experienced ladies that don't get the same opportunities or are not respected enough in the industry. But saying that, there is amazing people like Tony, like Bob, like Pete, and Mule, my skippers, that have included us and respect us as much as the voice on the crew. And the other challenge, if you want to, the next one maybe, yeah. So the red bucket, that's our toilet. Yeah. So that's a challenge that we all need to face. But I think that we all laugh at the end. We take it with humor and we just say, don't look, and tip it over. You do have to learn not to lose the bucket overboard because you forget that you are going fast. And then you want to rinse it quickly so no one sees, but then the bucket can be gone. So I learned that the hard way. Yeah, the hard way. I think out sailing, it made me stay in Auckland. It made me have wonderful connections and friends, and found this beautiful place where I have developed my skills and where I believe that I can really be part of, and I can give a little bit to the community as well, because I was looking forward to give back in a space. The wooden boats is just such a novelty. I feel so honored to sail on wooden boats, being part of the New Zealand heritage and being able to support it, polishing the boat. One day I spent 8 hours by myself just polishing, taking the rust out. But I had friends bringing me coffee, and that's all we need. We just need friends, we just need community, and we get things done. And we do it for the love of sailing. And for what sailing has brought to us, and gave to us. So thank you very much.
Okay, good afternoon. I'd like to thank Michelle and Sunny for this opportunity. which I refused 3 times at first. Because this morning we had Stan Conrad, who is a master navigator, followed by Dr. Sunny Natia, and I didn't feel qualified to be up here. And I wondered, what's my point of difference? Well, I'm female. So I checked in with the 3 different voyaging societies that I sail for. I checked in with Hoturoa from Te Toki Wakahauru and made sure it was okay for me to be here. I checked in with the Tongan Voyaging Association, Aonofu Havea, to make sure it was okay that I was here. And also Captain Feolofani Bruin from the Samoa Voyaging Society. Because I don't want to put it out there that I'm any kind of expert, because there are many more qualified people. But my point of difference is that I'm here and I can share some stories. So last year I had the privilege of sailing on Hinemoana Ua from Tauranga to Auckland to Tonga. Hinemoana Ua is a double-held waka, and she's related to the waka. If you go straight out these doors and look out there, she is the same build, same caste. She's related to Te Karere. She's a wakamotu, built not like the Ferraris that we learned to sail on, Sunny, but she is more like a cargo vessel. So she can beach on the islands and pick up cargo where places don't have a wharf or even a jetty. And so she was originally in the Marshall Islands picking up copra. So when we received her last year, she smelled like Anzac biscuits. And so this is our crew, Hinemoana Ua. Do you know who Hinemoana is? Hinemoana is the goddess of the sea. So you may have heard of Tangaroa. He's the god of the sea. He's kind of the top part that you can see, but deeper below that and more powerful is Hinemoana, the goddess of the sea. And so Hinemoana Ua, Hinemoana 2, is named after that goddess of the sea. And she's a collaboration between Te Whānau Apanui here in Bay of Plenty and the Tongan Voyaging Association. And she's all about bringing back traditional voyaging knowledge to women and girls, especially in the Pacific, because there are fewer opportunities for women and girls, especially in the Wakahaurua world. So all her blue water sails, so the big international ones, are female only. Within the coastal areas and in the harbours, then boys can jump on. But other than that, it's girl power. And this is when we had just arrived in Tonga and were greeted by the Tongan government. Next slide, please. We were so privileged to have 3 captains on board. We had, on the left, we've got Feolofani Bruin, Samoa's first modern captain, and I acknowledge here Emma Siope. And then in the red, we've got Jolene Busby, the first modern Māori female captain, and then on the right is Aonofu Havea, the first modern Tongan female captain. So we had a lot of expertise. And we were told by the men that, no, you can't have 3 captains on board. There'll be fights. You won't... that didn't happen. We did have robust discussions. But when Aonofu, who was our captain number 1, when she said, this is how we're doing it, she listened to everybody, including, us lowly ones. And then she would say, this is what we're doing. And we did it. Just a little story about how much knowledge these women have. One day, as we were just approaching Tonga, there was a beautiful cloud formation in the sky. It was pink and purple and orange, and all of us were like, wow, that's so cool, taking photos. And then one captain popped up, uh-oh. And the next captain pops up, uh-oh. And then the third captain pops up, and they're all huddled and having deep discussions. And then they come out and they're like, that is a massive system. It's stretching all the way from Tonga to New Zealand. We need to get out of here. And so we motored. Yeah, but, the rest of us like, oh, it's so beautiful. Because we had no idea what we were looking at. Thank you. When I was introduced to the wakahaurua world just out here, there was a whole lot of, it was with Te Toki, which is a Tainui organisation by Māori, for Māori, but there's a whole lot of us coconuts, like Sunny, like myself, who just kept turning up. And every time we came, it felt like the village and we felt at home. And I was like, what is it about this place that makes us feel at home so far away from home? And so I did my master's thesis on Pacific development through learning traditional voyaging on the wakahaurua haunui. Just want to acknowledge the people that were part of my study, who include Captain Emma Siope, who has since passed. Thank you. So these are the coconuts. And of course, all my findings I presented as coconuts. So these are the key elements of Pacific development. So anytime you see that things are, any kind of development or education opportunities that are working for Pacific people, like what Sunny's doing, you'll find these things are always present. You'll have acknowledgement of the environmental, social and spiritual realms. So being on waka is a very deeply spiritual place. We celebrate our communal relationships. We celebrate the Pacific history and identity and interconnectedness. So Sunny and Stan talked about the Polynesian Triangle and how we're all related. Mana, self-determination and self-reliance needs to be in there, otherwise why are we even doing it? Traditional science and technology and indigenizing modernity. So that means, just as Sunny was talking about with boat building, indigenizing modernity means, like on my grandma's whare, on the top of her whare, she'll have corrugated iron instead of thatch, because that's going to keep the rain out easier. And in waka, it's having fiberglass hulls. And then strong subsistence and a sustainable economy. Yep. So that's related to the copra and the Anzac Pacific smell. Thank you. Just a little bit about Hene Moana. She's a wakamoana, 15-metre double-hulled ocean-going waka. Oh yeah, on our crew, all-female crew, the youngest was 14. Here she is. Yeah. Hene rangi. And the oldest was, well, we were in our 50s, so 59. And we had people who were Māori, Samoan, Tongan, and a Cook Islander. And we were researching whales. So Sunny talked about tohora, the whales. We were following the whales. Due to some maintenance issues, we were a little bit held up. The whales did not wait for us. They just went up the Tongan Trench without us, but they were there waiting for us at the end. When we got there at the top of the Tongan Trench, or Rangitahua, there was a pod of about 20 dolphins waiting to greet us. The next day, there were 2 pilot whales who were directing us to Tonga. They were piloting us to Tonga. And then the next day, we had humpback whales showing off. And Captain Aonofo Havea, she has a whale watching business, so she could interpret for us what we were watching. So she'd say, oh, there's the mama whale, and the little one next to her, that's the calf. And then over there, slapping its tail, that's a juvenile, it's bored and lonely, and it's calling its mates. This is a little video, I don't know if it will play, but this was explained, was on Tangata Pacifica TVNZ, and this is Aonofo explaining about the voyage. You can find it on YouTube. Have the next slide, please. Oh, I also work for Coast Guard in my spare time, and luckily Coast Guard let me go on this because I said, I need some professional development. And they're like, oh, well, what kind of professional development do you want? And I'm like, leadership. And they said, oh, well, we've already got a leadership program. Do you want to be part of that? I'm like, yeah. So that's run by a Scottish man, which is great because our CEO is a Scottish man, and I need to know, how he thinks. But I'm not a Scottish man. They're like, okay, then. So what would you like? I'm like, a voyage. So I got to go on a voyage with Pacific women, and I learned about Pacific leadership. And so I presented back my findings, which were that women make opportunities for other women, such as Michelle giving us this space today. And yeah, it was our first all-female crew for Wakahaurua from New Zealand to Tonga. It was my first time to be a watch captain. I've been sailing since 2017. I've had watch captains who were 19 years old, and they started like a year before they were my watch captain. And I found that there was an acceptance of the whole person from other women. So, for example, my mum was in hospital for a little while when we were just about to leave. In fact, when our waka was launched, and I had to decide, can I be part of the launch or can I go look after my mum? And they said, get out of here. Go now. And they drove me. They drove me up to Middlemore to make sure that I was with my mum, because they know that you can't think straight if you're thinking about other things. I also found some other things that were a bit unnerving about the value of a Pacific woman's life, the value of Pacific women's work, and the value of Pacific women's voice. And it wasn't great. Some of the service that we got from people who made our sails, who stepped the mast, who provided our satellite phone was good, but Starlink, all these things that are supposed to be safety things, we were not treated with respect. And we were overcharged. They turned up late. They didn't treat us well. We were very much not even in second class, third class. They took our money, but they didn't provide the work. And the value of a Pacific woman's work, yeah, it's very much reflected in the pay gap, which we have on land. Yeah. So we had sponsorship from some organisations, and they just kept asking more and more and more of us, and giving us less. And then the value of a Pacific woman's voice. When we were being surveyed, we had the surveyor come and check this, check that. We had all 3 captains on board talking him through everything. And he just kept challenging everything. And then my partner, who is also a captain, but male, he stepped on board and said exactly the same thing that the women were saying. Tick, tick, tick. Yeah, so that was an uncomfortable finding. Yeah, I'll just leave it there on that negative note.
It wasn't a negative mode, it was just lessons learnt and challenges. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Thank you. I used to be the CEO for the Auckland on-water boat show. I'd sit in board meetings at NZ Marine, being the only woman in a decision-making role, and look around the table and wonder how I even got there. And occasionally there'll be comments made by some of the older guys, and I just learnt the silent reaction, the silent action. And what I would do when that happened, I would just pick up my pen, like pretend I was writing something, and just slightly shake my head, just slightly. And what would actually happen though is that some of the other men would step forward and correct that, whatever the comment was made and things. So yes, I hear you loud and clear. Once again, coming back to thanking Tony and William for introducing me into this world, and from that we've worked with a lot of suppliers, and particularly, through the boat show and things as well. Yes, yeah, timing, costings, respect, yeah, it's something we used to talk a lot about. So yes, so there were those challenges, but also thank you for sharing your enjoyment. Your challenges, the camaraderie is so important. You acknowledge that women provide opportunities for other women and girls, but also for men as well. We are all in it together, we are. But once again, just coming back to that start of NZ Marine, within 2 weeks I was looking around and I was thinking, where are the women? Because every meeting I went to, it was all men. And then eventually I found, and particularly women in decision-making roles as well. And eventually I found 2 women, I invited them for lunch. Then I found 5, invited them for lunch. 6.5 years later, by the time I left, I'd do a lunch twice a year. And the last one, we had 94 women come to it. And at a function we'd gone to for a super yacht regatta not long before that, one of the other managers, I was one of 3 managers in the NZ Marine Association, one of them came up to me and looked around and he said, oh, how many of the women here are in your little group? Because they used to think that we talked about shoes, which we did, but we also talked about business. And he literally said, in your little group, and I must admit, I looked around the room and it was the first time I understood the power of it. And I looked around the room, I said, all of them actually. So what had happened is that as we'd come together for those lunches and they realised they'd all done business with each other, with their different companies, they just had never met. But it gave them the encouragement to come to the meetings and the functions and get more involved. And there's now a woman president for NZ Marine, which may not, I remember taking her to Fashion Week, where I took a whole lot of NZ Marine women as well. So no, it is important. Thank you for stepping up and saying yes. Seriously, her name popped up in different, and as I spoke to different people, and even when Sunny came back, I said, she's actually already said no. But I explained once again why it was so important. And Natia, you said yes. And thank you so much. And I hope you've now seen the value of having your voice here. And yeah, I think you'll find that there'll be more things that we'll end up doing together as well. And Kat, thank you as well for sharing your story. And particularly, I didn't realise she hadn't done a Learn to Sail course. No, she just got on the boat and got put on the main sheet. But actually, before we go for questions, is there anything else either of you would like to add? Okay, question time.
I'd just like to acknowledge the stories that you shared. On behalf of the Tino Rawa Trust, we look after Rawene, as Michelle said, with Kat on main sheet, probably one of the best main sheet trimmers in Auckland at the moment. But what's interesting about the crew on Rawene is that they race against the A-class fleet. And if you wanted to see more testosterone on the water, you only have to see a couple of those boats. We're immensely proud of what Kat and the all-girl crew do on Rawene, and they go out there and kick butt. And they do it while having fun, while being passionate about sailing, supportive of each other, and loving the boat. And the boat is in such good nick. So even this is why I think it's so important to have a crew with females on board, is that a lot of the other boats break because of the males going out thinking they're invincible and they're simply not looking after our gorgeous classics. The team on Rawene will make a call and decide not to go sailing if it's blowing over 16, 17 knots. They're looking after our heritage. The other thing I would like to add is boat deliveries. We're big fans of having both males and females on board. And the reason for it is the boats run more efficiently, they're more fun, there's more energy on board, and it makes the deliveries a lot more fun. So we're big fans of that. We're not particularly interested in the macho approach to enjoying sailing. And we've had many wonderful trips and regattas with the mixed crews. So thank you very much for sharing your stories around that. Really appreciate it. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Yes, I'm parents, volunteer in the New Lens Scout. Then this guy is a big group. There is a lot of girls, a lot of boys. We are very proud to received in the national regatta last day, the trident, one of the best in Wellington. But everyone is very nice, rowers, very nice sailing. They're working very hard as a team. But just wanted to get some advice about. It's very nice on the water, but when it's before it start, leave the water to unrake and break the cutters, because we're using wooden cutters. It's a little struggle to commitment and work hard or work better. Any advice to improve their commitment for the boys and the girls to work more quickly or something?
More quickly. Okay, I suppose I'll start with this. One thing, I suppose, is to give them the big picture. So they're all turning up for racing, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's to give them the big picture as well about, maybe the history of the boat or the history of that class, of if that maintenance doesn't happen, what's going to happen to the boat? And then also just make it fun. I often will ask people, what is it that they really love doing the most? And you get them to do that. And it might be that actually somebody likes to paint, or somebody likes to potter and fix something, or, so just try that. What about other advice?
Is it about packing the boat up, like rigging the boat, getting it ready?
Yes,
So
yes.
I think also you can say that the sail doesn't finish until the boat is packed. I think when we sail with crew, they all go off and they go on their phones, go to the toilet. I'm like, no, come here. We need to flake the sails. We need to coil the ropes, and then we can go and go on. So it's like the sail is not over until we hit the dock and the boat is fully clean and packed. It's part of the sailing experience. And if you're not committed to that, and also a little regard, like, come on, let's pack up and go eat some hot chips, or I don't know. Yeah, I think it helps. yeah.
Very similar. I was on a sail from Kawhia up around the Cape down to Auckland, and my watch, there were 4 of us. 3 were young men aged under, they were teenagers, including my watch captain was a teenager, plus me, a 50-year-old woman. And I was like, God, what kind of hell have you given me? And the watch captain, he was good, but the other 2 kids, they were seasick, they were just didn't want to do things. I'd give them, can you cut the carrots, please? They'd peel the carrots and give me the carrot, like, okay, now you need to cut it. Then they cut it. Now you need to get rid of the scraps and clean the board. Just I felt like I was on them all the time. But just as Kat was saying, it just was, there was nowhere for them to go until they'd finished their job. And then I found a way of connecting with them as well. So they were really into Japanese anime. And I speak Japanese. So they were just saying, ridiculous stuff that they'd heard. And I knew what they were saying. So I could say back to them, like, "Omae wa mou shinderu yo!" And then, you know what that means, don't you? Yeah. You're already dead. Yeah. And, there we go. So we found a way to connect with them in their world. And then by the time we got to Auckland and their families came to greet them, they did not leave the waka until they had finished everything. Even though they had been given permission to leave, they kept coming back and saying, "Is there anything else we need to do?" Before they left the waka. I was like, oh, job done.
That's why you went.
Great. Does anyone else have any advice that they could add to that? Yeah. So I suppose it really is that sailing doesn't start on the start line. It does start beforehand. And it is, maybe that is your time to, share some food or something together. And then, and then once again at the end. And after, So at the beginning and when you finish, and also, as I say, understanding what part they really like. Excellent.
Can you hear me? Any charting done from the voyages, just as a historic from the voyages that you've done on the Waka? Were the voyages charted, mapped?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We're actually tracked as well.
Okay.
Interestingly, when on a different sail, I sailed from Auckland to Samoa on Ngawalofa, which is Sunny's original waka. We sailed from Auckland to Tonga, and we used the GPS and a compass.
Yep.
And then from Tonga to Samoa, our captain said, "No more white man's magic. We're going to use the traditional ways." And that's when we had to learn how to, calibrate our hand against the horizon. So I know that this is 11.25 degrees for me on the horizon. And we had to learn how to measure the speed of the vessel using banana skins. So we used both.
Okay. Make a recommendation, a really good book, almost a text that you guys should have. It's a book written by a man called David Lewis, who's actually given talks in this museum, From Maori to Cook. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Fantastic. Thanks, Baden. David Lewis is, I think, very much part of the Voyaging Society community, absolutely. And we had Stan Conrad talking here earlier as well, who was, from the very original 1975 group. Who, with Hector Busby, started the Renaissance for voyaging as well. As I say, last time when we were coming back from Tonga in November, and I was trying to look at the waves and trying to look at the wave patterns a bit more and be more aware. Wow, it takes what the traditional navigators and teams crew do, and to observe and to remember and to record. I can barely remember what I did yesterday, as I'm sure a few others do. Okay, fantastic. Is there any more questions before we go? Hey, thank you, as Tony said, thank you. Thank you very much to my fellow panellists. It's kind of like a panel, but kind of not. Sharing some stories, fantastic, and thank you for your time. So at 2:30 today, it's going to be a film screening. So if anyone feels like watching a film, it's called Whetu Marama Bright Star, and it is about the New Zealand story, starting with Hec Busby back in that 1975, and the whole voyaging renaissance in New Zealand. It is fantastic. I cannot recommend it highly enough. So that starts at 2:30. In the meantime, there's tea and coffee here, or you can go and have a look at any of the boats on the water and stuff as well. But we'd love to see you back here for 2:30. Thank you.